Megillat Eicha is amazingly sensitive to human nature. There is some significant structure to the 5 chapters of Megillat Eicha, the Book of Lamentations, which clarify for us, which elucidate human nature in such a clear way that I find amazing, where the world of psychology meets the world of Tanakh. We know that the book is presented, the first 4 chapters have a certain structure to them of alphabetic acrostic, where we have the verses in alphabetical order. And in chapters 1 and 2, you have an additional level of structure where there's a cycle to it, where the first verse, 1, parallels the last verse, verse 22. And it's really like a circle. It's like going around and around and around. And this idea of the grief that you might experience seems like the circle of grief, and it seems never ending. However, there's this beautiful idea by Dr. Lois Tonkin, this idea of growing around grief, where you might have the circle in the middle, you might have a circle of loss, you might have grief. It doesn't shrink over time. It doesn't change, but with the beauty of having it in that circular form is that it allows growth around it. It creates almost like an anchor from which new life can grow. And vivid colors, new experiences, and joy can coexist with the dark circle of grief. As Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about the stages of grief and being non-linear, she discusses that you can go back and revisit a stage and be sort of there for a bit and then go to another stage, and that there's this parts of grief that we go around and around and we revisit different stages. And then around that, you have new growth and new life. And she says that you can heal and rebuild yourself around the loss you've suffered. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says, you can be whole again, but you will never be the same. And I think that message is very powerful for us when we're understanding the Megillat Eicha, because the psukim, the verses, are very challenging. They are hard to listen to. It's hard to read. The imagery is graphic. It's extremely gruesome. And there's emotions of anger. There's emotions of utter loneliness. There's so much destruction. There's famine. There's real suffering that, we are experiencing enough of that, so to speak, in our days now. Who wants to learn this? But we learn Megillat Eicha, and we can see the beauty in it, that there is so much hope for how to process and grow through grief. Not to be stuck in any one place, but that there is a process of growth in it as well. And this image is something that we can see by this wonderful initiative that exists in Israel today of the kalaniot, these poppies, these red flowers that are in installations all over Israel, specifically down south, that are meant to symbolize just this, that the black circle of the poppy symbolizes grief and loss, all those who were murdered on October 7th. And there's a beautiful, vivacious red petals that surround the black circle. It's an amazing phenomenon that somehow correlates to this theme of how we deal with grief and loss. We give it space. It takes up space. And we can grow a vibrant life around it. And this duality, living with the loss and the suffering, along with creating new life, creating joy, and creating new experiences, is something that is part of the human condition. It's something that we learn about from modern psychology, and it's something that we see in Megillat Eicha, and we see today in the strength of Am Yisrael and the Jewish people to know how to survive and thrive.